Four of these in a day? Alright, I can see that.
Maybe six.
I can pull that. You think six?
I think it's like it's 20 ounces.
Well, I think it's more than 20 if you fill it all the way. It doesn't say on here anymore, unless I can't read it.
Sarah, I don't think you would remember it.
Wait, it does say. Oh my god, you're right. I think it is 20 ounces.
It took 2 months off.
This takes an hour and 15 minutes. So I did like some elliptical for like 20 minutes, and I did a stationary knife for like 15 minutes after rowing machine time and like press start. Yeah.
You know, it's deceptively tough. Have you ever gone in the back? When I want to go proud,
Trying to like.
it's up there.
Is that, yeah, the recharge time on the XRs is like an hour and a half. Yeah, like once I heard like an hour recharge.
All right, hello everybody. Thank you, Sarah. Sarah's reminded me that, we're 2 minutes behind schedule. We start at 7:10 promptly, as always. Anyway, if you've never been here before, welcome to the Sector67. We do these monthly meetings. It's essentially a 7-minute show and tell for people to talk about projects and things that they're working on. Tonight, I know that we have 2 presentations. I think there's a few more than that, but I have not heard from them, so I'm sure we'll find out shortly as to what's going on. Dave, you want to go first? I knew Dave would be excited. Very excited.
I brought slides even.
Oh, man.
Find them.
Dave's going to talk about this pile here. I thought since it was part of the presentation, I wouldn't move it. In all seriousness, I'll buy time while Davey's figuring out his slides. There is, we were gifted some highway signs. Not often a thing that you have an opportunity to have, but I don't know if you guys can see if the angle's right. This thing says truck written out in LEDs. There's a bunch of these outside, and we're going to be taking them apart tomorrow night, but if anyone wants a giant LED sign or wants parts of a giant LED sign, you can take as many or as few pieces as you'd like. I have no idea if they work. I would imagine some of the signs work and some of them don't, but they're all pretty much 120 volt, pretty easy to test. So, my God, man, those are quite professional looking signs. Jesus. All right, David, take it away.
So one of the hobbies I picked up here is turning all of Chris's junk into money. So basically, for whatever reason, this building accumulates junk, whether it be useful junk or semi-useful junk. Anyway, so we end up with just like 4 or 5 of these pallet boxes a year, apparently, of nonsense. And we can either pay the city some number of thousands of dollars to get rid of them. Like, for example, a computer is $15 if you want to take it to the city and have them dispose of it. I can tear it down and turn it into about $3 worth of materials, which isn't a lot, but it's better than paying. So the basic synopsis is somebody suckers Chris into taking all their junk, and then Chris suckers me into taking all that junk into my house, and then I kind of start scrapping it down. How do I go left and right here? No.
Up and down.
Up and down, nothing.
Is it PDF?
No, they're all just pictures. It should just be a slideshow.
Oh. That's rough. Oh God, what is this?
Whose computer is this?
Windows. What is going on here? It's not good.
I want to stop the 7 minutes. Hold on.
This is bad. I don't know what the hell that is. How'd you get to this?
I didn't.
Oh, there we go. Jesus. This is old people in front of Windows 8. It's not good.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Oh, this must be Windows Viewer. That's probably the problem.
You have a new app that can work for this.
Yeah, hit whatever you hit to get out of there. Let's see if we can run this.
That's what I was
gonna say. We're gonna run this as because it's
something better. No, not paint.
photo gallery. Maybe photo gallery.
That should
God knows.
They really should.
Oh, hey, we just need to accept some license terms, of course.
And give it root access, no problem.
How
Oh,
many
there we go.
times
That
people
looks
do we have in
This
promising.
is better. It's just Windows doing great things. Oh, what the hell?
Come on. Just hold on. Stop.
Oh,
Make
yep,
this bigger.
yep, I'm out.
No, don't touch it.
There. That's all I need.
All right, we're good.
All right.
Maybe down
Just
here.
needs
Maybe down
to-
here. This one.
No, that's going to do all
Do
the
you
time.
think it's gonna be
All
this?
right.
Blue arrows then.
We're on
Something
it.
here will work.
I'll give it a one shot. We're going to get the, yeah, we're going to get the
That's
face.
same thing.
No, this is dumb.
It's more exciting.
So, which leads me to another thing. I was trying to make the graph that you're going to see in a little while, and Excel, also made by Microsoft, was drawing lines, like linear lines that did cartwheels and back again, and I deleted that slide because it was dumb, but anyway. So, I take a big old pile of junk to my house, and which consists of just all kinds of nonsense, and then I just meticulously take it apart and separate the metals. My daughter gets involved sometimes, and we just kind of sort through, and sometimes I find cool stuff for myself, like this. I turned into a desktop magnifier for a dictionary I have with tiny little letters on it. I just cut that thing in half, and and so half of this for me is like grounding wire from my buddy's garage. This thing freaked me out, and I gave it back to Chris immediately. I don't know if you guys can read it, but it says caution radiation right there. Came right back to this building almost immediately. Don't know what's inside there.
X-ray.
This is kind of just some cool stuff. This was an old oscilloscope from the 60s that has gold traced circuit boards. So we have like a 3-gallon bucket of these circuit boards sitting upstairs that we're trying to, I don't know, hawk on eBay or something because it's got a lot of gold in it. Stuff like this comes back into, so like half of this is trash, like 1 iota of it comes back into this building or my own little piles of stores for, like this is potentiometers and knobs, and so if you ever want to build something with fancy knobs, just go dig through the bucket. I put a bunch of them in there. This is a iris that I found in the pile somewhere. If you roll that knob, that thing gets bigger and smaller. It's stuck to my wall. I don't know what to do with it. But anyway, the bulk of this is that all the stuff that you buy needs to go somewhere. You can't throw it in the landfill. It's toxic waste. Like anything with a circuit board in is deemed toxic waste. So we tear it down and scrap it, and then turn it up. I end up with just 1,000 little buckets of all these different types of metals. And then I fill up my truck, take it to the scrap yard, turn it in. This was today's run, actually. All this, I'll take guesses. How much do you think I made off of this run right here? Pretty close. It's $360. So it's really hit or miss. It really just depends on how much copper you have, because everything else is like mostly worthless. Aluminum helps sometimes. This is like a normal bucket run at the scrap yard with just this is like a small load that day.
You're not stripping all the wires, are you?
No, I only stripped. So if you look here, okay, this is.
Spreadsheet.
I like data. I'm a big fan of data. This is all just the price that we've paid for, or that we've gotten paid for all the metals over since I started this in January.
What's the total?
This is just the price per pound, and so I put this in here in case you're curious. So number 2 copper, for example, 260. We're down at 209 right now. Turns out there's a trade war on. China buys all our junk. We don't like China right now. They're not buying so much of our junk. This is the totals that's fascinating to me. So total, turning over a little over 10,000 pounds, brought into this building $4,250. Average price per pound is 42 cents. So that includes like the $2 a pound copper and the nickel a pound bare circuit boards. So circuit boards have a different rating. The more gold it has, it goes into high grade board. Most circuit boards are just junk, and you get a nickel a pound. Some of the fun parts are, like this bare bright copper was copper that I stripped. It was 04. It was like the size of my thumb. I sat in my garage and just stripped it all down, and we got 2 5-gallon buckets got us $444. And then I did that again, and that's how we got $740 out of that. So the yellow is like the big money stuff. If you can tell, we turn in a lot of number 2 insulated. That's just kind of nonsense power cables and all that stuff. The green I highlighted because there's a heavy weight and a low dollar amount. And so that's like, sheet iron is in here somewhere, which is just steel. Steel price is nonsense right now. 470 pounds got us $36, and like 600 pounds of 5/6 aluminum, $200. And so this is just kind of like, I just keep track of all this because I'm curious. This is one of the things that I've grumbled about all the time is the trade war with China and how the prices are going down. And so you can see when I started, number 2 copper was up here, and I actually took notes somewhere, and I won't bore you with all the details, but if you follow these lines, it's connected to the news and when Trump yelled at China or when China yelled at Trump or whatever is going on there. And so like this little peak right here was after a 2-day summit in Beijing where we talked about making peace with the trade war or whatever. And so and that all kind of tracks through there.
And it just dropped right off immediately.
Yeah, and one of the things you can't quite tell is this little, I put this in, although it's almost negligible here. This is the price for steel, which they pretty much decided they don't want. And so when I started this project, steel was $155 a ton, and today it's $70 a ton. So that's like, a little less than half. And that's the end of the show. So tomorrow, the reason I did this was because tomorrow from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m., we're going to take apart that pile of stuff. If anybody's interested, if you're just bored and want to return a screwdriver or figure out what's inside of stuff, you get to keep what you find. If you find something cool, I don't really care. Anyway, come help out. It actually does turn into money. Like I said, we put $4,200 into the coffers here already. So, any questions?
I have a hazardous waste question that I've done a tiny bit of research on. we took some seats out that have side airbags, and so I'm looking up how to dispose of those. And from what I can read, if they have not been exploded, they're considered hazardous waste because of the chemical that's in there. But once they've been exploded, you can just put them in the trash.
Oh,
And so,
because that's already been injected into your nostrils?
exactly, yeah. No, because it does its reaction, and so the chemistry happens, and it goes from being something you can't landfill to something that's just, inert.
Okay.
Or whatever. I'm not a chemist.
How much of this has to do with the fact that on the working face of the landfill, they drive tractors around them, they don't want to blow up an airbag?
I'm sure part of it has to do with that too, yeah.
Huh?
It only goes off with electricity,
Okay.
so impact won't be.
Okay.
Right. So it's funny, we were actually at
Wait, isn't that the whole point of it?
Dorsets
For impact?
when they're turning the building
Yeah,
down,
because
and
it's
we were
sensitive.
pulling out a metal cabinet. Behind the metal cabinet was an airbag deployment kit. And all it is a really long wire that goes to an old battery and then a switch.
Yeah.
And you push the button and it sets off the airbag.
During my research, I found a document that referred to an airbag deployment kit. And that was, in my mind, probably what it is wires.
So the old shop behind the building, we took a bucket and we put a watermelon on top of it, put an airbag on top of it.
It's on YouTube somewhere.
It's on YouTube somewhere, because Karen took the video. And we hit the button, and it blew up the bucket. So, watermelon's still on skyward, but the bucket just exploded. And not enough to do anything or everything.
Apparently, if they're unobstructed, you only have to be about 20 feet away. But there's all these things about not facing them down and not putting things on top. It
Not
just
putting
makes me
friends
want
on
to
top
do
of
that.
it.
It's pumpkin time of year right now.
Yeah.
I got one.
Pumpkin.
At one time, there was a big deal where you got paid a lot more if you had like all your steel or all your aluminum like sorted specifically by category. Is that like still a thing?
It's
or
definitely still a thing.
How much more you get, do you know?
So, yeah, I can show you that here.
Is it worth buying the $4,000 gun that tells you the difference or whatever?
No. If you do it long enough and the guys at the scrapyard yell at you enough, you figure it out. That was my free solution to that problem. So in here is just the aluminum here. Breakage is anything that has like a steel screw in it or whatever. But it kind of, this isn't necessarily in order, but like 5/6 series it's literally 5/6 of that is aluminum. The rest of it's like caulk or, we took in some old window framing that had like some caulk on it and they gave us 5/6 aluminum. Mixed aluminum solids, which is like thick, like inch thick plate stuff, which I thought was going to be super awesome. Like, oh, it's just a crap load of aluminum. It's really hard to process that and grind it, so you actually get a worse price for it. The old sheet is one of the better, kind of aluminum prices because it's easily grindable. And so when I go in, that's why I have all those buckets, is because this is extruded aluminum, and this is painted aluminum, and this is painted extrusions, and this is, and I kind of divvy it all up for that reason.
What's the weirdest type of thing that's up here?
We turned in a titanium bike frame today.
Ooh,
Right there.
yeah.
$1.10 per pound.
Nice.
So we got $2.20 off that bike frame. Seemed like it was going to be a lot more. He didn't pull out his gun though. I wanted him to pull out the thing, and he didn't. He just looked at it enough and was like, that's probably a bike frame. Like I said, the Bear Bright was the big one. The 4 buckets of copper, 4 5-gallon buckets full of just slap full of copper. I mean, you could barely pick one up, and that was $750 for all 4 of those.
If I was gonna go in my basement and scrounge up stuff to donate, what should I look for?
I don't like the path of this conversation.
You don't know that my basement's completely empty. I'm just asking for the sake of asking.
The big things are copper and aluminum. Brass actually is one of my favorites because it's an underrated metal over here. It's down, so brass valves, copper pipes, copper wire, stuff like that. Pretty much copper, brass, aluminum. Anything else is kind of useless.
Titanium seems to be.
Yeah.
So what do you estimate if somebody trashes a house for the pipes and the copper wiring
Yeah.
for a drug habit? What are they getting for a house? Right? They destroy a house.
Yeah, house with the copper.
This is a multifaceted answer. As they're going to get like 25 cents an hour as far as I can figure out. I don't know the answer to that question because I've only done I've done a bunch of plumbing in my house and I had a bucket and that bucket got me,
It's what's accessible.
$12.
Big basement, like if you rip out a basement, you're probably getting $30, $40.
So they break in and just demolish an abandoned house, they get like $20
Well,
down.
they're not ripping plaster out, just pulling the wire out of the wall.
That's not
We're
always
getting all
true.
this stuff in the basement.
I've had friends have their house demolished, wall cavity's clean for the copper pipe, not for the wire.
Yeah.
We had, at the old building, when we were done, like, pulling out all the big wire to reuse it, TJ came in and cut out, like, every snippet of every last bit of copper everywhere in the entire building, and ended up with, like, about a 5-gallon bucket worth of wire.
And that was how much?
About $30.
Yeah, it's really not.
It's not worth it.
He was there for like 3 hours.
But if you don't have a job, it's
Or air
better
conditioner
than
coils.
nothing,
That's a different-
right?
I didn't come up with a lot of
There's
science.
special rules about those now.
Good.
Um,
My parents have had their air conditioner stolen 3 times in a summer, and that's like 2 days of air conditioning.
Right.
That you have all summer. Like,
Also, to the other facet of your question is that all the junkies, or most of the junkies that I see at the scrapyard, because it's full of them, are not taking this stuff apart. Like, I'm very meticulous because I have like extra anxiety energy to burn, and so these guys aren't. And they just take like all the copper pipes with the brass valves, and the brass valve has a steel handle on it, and they just carry it all in there. And sometimes they hit it against the curb and knock stuff off. And so they just get breakage, which is nothing. Like a copper breakage is 20 cents a pound.
Huh.
So
So you need to educate them.
I don't care.
When was the last time you talked to a tweaker?
Huh?
You're talking to the wrong person. I do that all the time.
You mean people who deal with junk, not people who are on drugs, right?
No, I think he means both.
I think I'm leave both.
Yeah.
Oh.
If you had a Venn diagram of the two, they overlap a lot.
There's gotta be a pie chart for that too, right? So
You had a question.
Yeah, what's the price of aluminum cans, just for
I've never done it. I don't know.
You're not done cans?
I've actually
But you
been
did
curious
cans.
about that.
oh yeah.
You did a whole truck of cans.
About half of a small U-Haul truck is about $62. It was about 50 bags of semi kind of sort of crushed cans. They're worth crap. Some of the weight is wax and liquid and stuff
Yeah,
anyway. It all turns to slag when you try and melt it.
Yeah.
Even if you crush it first, it's like a pain to recycle. You don't get that much yield from it. So
So half a small U-Haul truck was $62.
I don't have a section for that number.
Any others?
The economics on the scrap seems like sort of backwards to me right now. So in theory, the tariffs would drive up like U.S.-based manufacturing of steel, which you would think would mean that our scrap would be worth more because we're wanting to turn it locally into steel.
But we need
So
the
there's-
infrastructure to turn it.
Right. So like aluminum for one is all of this is heavy processing cost or whatever. And so that's not something you're just going to spin up. Like this trade war started just a little over a year ago.
Okay, so this is all just getting stockpiled until it can be processed somewhere more cheaper here.
Yeah, but there's other Asian countries that are kind of stepping up their game and starting to buy our junk.
And you would think the shipping to these countries is expensive, but those boats are going back empty out anyway,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. Yeah, I found that, at least for sourcing metal at our place that we work, it's gotten much harder and more expensive. It takes longer to get what you want, especially under certain circumstances of metal types, like federal regulations and stuff, but.
And one thing to note
It's
about the
been
China
bad.
thing is that it's not that they're not taking our stuff, it's that they're refining what they are taking. They used to just buy anything, and so somebody would bail up, a bunch of aluminum cans with a chunk of steel in the middle of it and sell it to them, and nobody cared. But about 6-8 months ago, they ratcheted down what they are taking because they don't want to fill their country with junk. And so like aluminum and copper, titanium, and 2 other things had to be within 5% pure on the inbound. And they're capping like total weight inbound for stuff like that. And so they are still buying some of this stuff, which is why people like me help, this works because I've already got it all separated and I can sell them like this is all aluminum, but like all the breakage, that's why the breakage prices are just plummeting right now. And the steel's plummeting because it's not steel, it's steel and plastic. Yes, food scraps or whatever.
So what's the aluminum per pound?
Well, the 66 extrusion is 54 cents to it's 41 cents now, which is kind of one of the better prices for aluminum.
So is there a price at which you would be better off just burning the aluminum back to aluminum for the heat energy? Probably energy dense.
That sounds like a question you're more suited to answer than me.
All right, any other questions?
Can I work on your spreadsheet with you?
Yeah, sure.
Sarah will have this thing all like radiated and everything will be awesome.
It'll be
To get this chart, it took me and my wife an hour and a half. Just for the record. So I would take any help I can get.
I love spreadsheets. I make them for fun.
Thank you, David.
I'm going to talk about little mills. This, you're welcome to come up and try it. If you really bribe me, maybe I'll show you how it operates too, but it's a pain in the neck to get it going. But what I wanted to do was take and build a USB microscope scanner. So I bought a little USB microscope, 29 bucks. I went to Hobby King and bought a little CNC mill, 110 bucks, $65 in shipping cost, by the way. I could have bought 2 mills for just a little bit more next time. So the basic idea is what I want to do is categorize material changes on low energy nuclear reactions. And I've got some interesting samples up here you can look at. This is aluminum foil, put into an ultrasonic tank, and it actually disintegrates to powder after a while. So the question is this actually causing material transformation to element? And there are a couple of issues associated with that, but what I want to do is scan the material beforehand, expose it to some reactions, and then see what the changes are. I've also gone over to UW Geology Department to use their SEM, much more expensive per hour. So I want to first categorize what I want to look at and then tell the UW Geology people, okay, here's the thing we want to look at.
And SEM is?
Scanning electron microscopes that also can do elemental analysis too. You can tell what the materials are down at the, that's a 40 micron scale. Each of those is 4 microns, give you an idea. So I want to make a large thing as a reference and then go back and scan it again and look for the differences when we're done. So there's the hardware, Hobby King plus shipping. It has an Arduino-based Gerbil controller. It runs 12-volt steppers and a 24-volt little DC motor for the router. And I'll pass these around. These are my very first ever routed pieces on it. So you can probably make name tags and maybe cut balsa wood, a few things like that. Chris thinks I can maybe do a little better. The drive software that the vendor says use is something called Candle. I think that's actually a Java-based package that will take an input Gerber file created by any of your Gerber file creation things and run it on this. The microscope is a pluggable USB 2.0. It's 1600 by 1200 pixels, so it's a pretty nice microscope. I'm running this on a platform at home that's an Intel Atom-based processor that's going to be running Ubuntu 18, so that's what I'm going to build everything on. So for basic software, that's the OS. I'm using OpenCV to actually connect to and get the microscope images. Then I haven't found a good one yet. I'm still looking around for Python drivers as drop-in libraries to just say move XYZ. That's all I care about is move XYZ. Now to process the images, I'm actually using HugeIn/Enfuge. They're open source packages that allow you to stitch images together and also do a correction for focal depth as well too. And it's, I've been playing around with those. They're actually quite nice. And then of course I'll run Python just to integrate everything all together. So hopefully I'll put something in, say start, go from here to here, and then just let it crank and create the images for me. Just to give you an idea of the kind of processing, you probably can't see it, but I took that microscope, laid it on its side on the chair arm, which is a woven fabric. And you can see parts of this are in focus as you go across it. And this Enfuse/HugeIn will actually take and put them all together so they all are in focus. So it creates one image out of these multiple things too. The reason I want to do that is because the depth of field on these microscopes is terrible. It's a very narrow focal point. So if you have any three-dimensionality to the piece you're looking at, you want to kind of focus through a couple of layers, create a focused image, and then stitch those together. So at least that's what I'm planning to do. And that's it. Any questions? Question?
So, do I understand correctly that you can put something into that and then scan a wide kind of area and then stitch all that together to one very fine?
That's the goal. Okay.
Yeah. And how big of a surface, or like?
Well, you can see, it depends on the size of your scanning bed. This is probably, I think it's about 4 by 6 inches.
Oh, so you think you'll be able to do that down to like a formulaic or a super close zoom?
The microscope is a 250 times scope.
Okay.
So Yeah, I don't know how many pixels I'm going to wind up with. I haven't actually calibrated the microscope phase. But you can see, I mean, this is a weave on a chair arm, and that's one image. So it's not much. That's probably a few decibels.
So that's one image. But if you wanted to put like a postcard size thing in there, could you take and scan, stop the camera, take a picture, move it?
Yeah, that's the plan.
And so
And in fact,
you
this,
have a much larger swath.
this huge in package does that too. I didn't show you that. This is a little more, takes a little more work. You first have to actually take the images you want through different focal depths. Then you have to actually align them so they all line up. And then you run this other package that looks for focused elements in the images and rebuilds an image from focused elements across these multiple pictures. So it's fairly complex image processing, open source.
Are you buying supercomputer time at this point?
You know, it takes a while to figure it out, but it's surprisingly fast. You know, I worked in the computer industry, you know, and Cray, YMP, you know, I don't know if you know Cray series. The last one that Cray made was the YMP. That was a 16 processor, multi-gigaflop per engine machine. Harmonic mean on large Littlemore loops, which is one measure, a number 30 or 40 megaflops, something like that. A Raspberry Pi at $35 outperforms that $20 million Cray line. And most of the processors out today are significantly faster. But mostly what you need is a lot of memory and go down to this. This particular device that I'm using, the Atom processor, I just was running Myth TV. I don't know if you're familiar with that, XPFC or other things that allow me to record programs on air. It's your own sort of TiVo. I finally got sick and tired of maintaining it and doing it, so I decided to fly a real TiVo, upgrading that to, I converted that box. So it could do video pretty well. But it's a fairly low power processor, it's only about 20 watts. So I'm hoping that this thing can just sit there and give it a task. And the OpenCV package, I don't know if anyone ever played with OpenCV, but it's really powerful. There's a lot of stuff.
Are you gonna use that to like just select ranges for you then to look at manually?
Mostly what I'm gonna do it is OpenCV knows how to talk to the camera. Okay, and I looked around and tried to find stuff to talk to the cameras. You know, all of the standard apps that run on your Linux, or you can get a package from them to do it. They're all pretty much using the same chipsets internally. So once you find something that talks to that chipset, then you can use it. OpenCV drivers are there. And so what I'm having problems with right now is this camera wants to kind of do an auto exposure thing. I haven't figured out how to fix the exposure yet, because the list of callable functions in the OpenCV library is about that long. You know, all kinds of different things you can call. I haven't figured out how to do that. What I found, the thing that works best is call it about 10 times, and then it finally gets the exposure right at the end of the 10th time. And then I capture that frame.
Neat. Other questions?
Any questions?
Did you ever try to scan a dollar bill with the scanner?
I think I'd check.
Throw it on the copy machine next time you see one.
Well, try running a dollar bill on a copy machine and see what happens. All the new copiers are all trained to not scan in an image, so it won't work. They're trained down to their firmware level to recognize a dollar bill and it won't scan it.
What if you try a foreign dollar?
I have no idea what they currently.
I've heard some of them euros and stuff now.
What's interesting is if you want a high resolution scan of an object, this is the way to do it. Tormach for a while, who produces CNC mills of Wanakee, they had a ultra high resolution USB microscope that was used for reverse engineering, and so you could do this. They didn't have multiple layering or anything else. What they had to do was to take multiple images and stitch them together. But this looks a lot better than what I've seen other sort of applications and similar things, so it'd be interesting.
We'll see, and a lot of it depends on the quality of the microscope. You could spend, I mean, it's like $29 is a pretty reasonable price for a microscope.
I know this place that gets lots of junk that might be selling USB microscopes for $400 on eBay, but I think I could probably lend you one. It's a 1280 resolution with I think a 500 times zoom or something. So.
Yeah, the other thing I don't know yet until I start doing it is the thing going to be flat field or distorted? You have to mark the images and everything. Not yet. So far, it was pretty square. What I really need is an optical reticle one as a calibration source. Do you have any of those?
I don't know.
When you're curious, see a little optical reticle.
All right. Thank you, Tom. Everybody's seen online that router is like what you see for like $100 on eBay. Or on Hobby King or wherever else. So those are like the cheap CNC routers. Yeah.
Is it kind of like wood and MDF router, or could you do aluminum?
A lot of these have lasers on them. So a lot of them people put laser diodes on them, but it's like a 2-watt laser, so it's just able to etch.
Yeah.
These are meant for doing wood or acrylic, that kind of stuff, or like Tom was saying, name
I
tags or
think
something.
they call it, it's kind of a plastic badge maker.
Yeah.
Okay.
It wouldn't cut aluminum for a variety of reasons. I imagine if you put a single flute cutter and an actual spindle on it, it would sort of be able to, but just the rigidity isn't there.
But MDF?
Yeah, it would cut wood or anything. I mean, this it would cut through this. It just takes a bunch of passes. So yeah. Aaron, I'm guessing you want to talk about this monstrosity.
It's my pickle. Oh. So I made a bunch of improvements on my pickle this year. Added the skeleton arms and legs. Bin over there. But even put some fleshy bit tendons on there, which I did that by some of that fat yarn that you find in the craft store. And if you just splay off, like there's an outer shell that just keeps that in, pull that apart, it just looks like tendons in there. And I sprayed it with fabric stiffening spray. So it looked really cool. Added the hip bones and blood splotches, arm, or the shoulders. And let's see here. Finally found a use for the Velociraptor claws I printed up years ago. On the back, I added lungs. And I found out that I did a real shitty job stitching them together. So I might need to just glue around the outer edge, and then I'm going to remove some of the stuffing and run a tube to the inside, so then they can make the lungs compress and decompress. And that'll be fun. But anyway, yeah, it was fun.
Is that brain or heart glowing?
Yeah.
It is.
What are the bones made of? Rubber, is it?
Which ones?
Or the main ribcage ones, the white.
Oh, okay, so those are, it's the same stuff that I use for the Predator dreads. It's backer rod, used for,
Right.
Yeah, it's just, the backer rod, just the rod-like insulation stuff, and just coated the shit out of it with plastic. And then this one, for the ribs, I believe, because those were black to begin with, I think it was just because like the way that I put it on really thick and it cracked it apart, it was really cool. When I tried doing it on this, I used tan EVA foam mats. I found a whole stack like that big at Hippie Christmas this year of like fake hardwood flooring background. So they had a nice tan backing on them, but I did those, used them for that, which meant I only had to use one can of plastic dip to coat all the hips and everything, which worked out really well.
How much time have you put into it? How much time and money?
I don't record that.
What? You're not making a spreadsheet?
No. I'm not making a spreadsheet with it either. Yeah. So, and then I had it all written out so I could just, it took about an hour to get into everything completely, and then I could run around in it and pop in and out of it. But yeah, get some reactions when people walk around corners and not expecting to see a pickle.
You wear like black leggings or something?
I went out, what's that? Yeah, I had black leggings, and then I used like bungee cords, and I even had fake rat feet shoe coverings that I would duct tape onto my feet. And then, then I would take some bungee cords and put them around my ankles, and I got like bruises right here from the skeleton bones.
Aaron, I'm going to steal your light for a second. Who has seen Pickle Rick in Rick and Morty? All right, so half of your audience has no idea what you're talking about. So this is a episode from Rick and Morty, which is a cartoon show. And basically, he turned himself into a pickle, and his goal is to not die, and so therefore he is stealing a rat and turning it into his body. So that's where this is coming from.
Oh, that's why the lungs are on the back.
Yes.
Okay.
So I would say Aaron gets the award for the first Rick and Morty episode at the Sector 67 meeting.
Hey, new episodes are on next
Okay, that
Sunday.
helps.
Anyway, but that's what the character is supposed to be, so
Yeah,
it's,
most people know it.
it's very accurate. And did you win anything this year?
I didn't win anything at the Comic Con, surprisingly. Yeah, I don't know how this doesn't win at Comic Con, but I ended up winning. What was it? I got $100 cash and $50 in drink coins at a bar off 30, and then I got a $100 gift card for a tattoo, and yeah. So if anybody wants $100 worth of tattoo at Lost Lake, talk to me.
Did you use all the drink tokens?
So, yeah, questions?
Can you see through the mouth?
Oh,
Is
yeah.
that where you look through?
Yeah, I got stealth mode in there too, so, because like, I didn't have the blackout in there before, so when I would get on my one wheel in the summer, I just go mess with people down the bike path, and everybody who didn't know who Pickle Rick was, there was just like this one little Mexican lady sitting on a bench, and she goes, "How come you got eaten by a pickle?" I was like, "Oh, I'm Pickle Rick," and I just left. But yeah, I went to the craft store, and actually, like, I've been trying to find the fabric for a while that I was easily see through that you couldn't see me in, and then I like actually asked the people at the craft store, and they're like, "Oh, speaker fabric," over there, and just like took me straight to it. It worked out pretty well. One of the big problems I had with it was when the first year I did it, so this is just white craft foam, and then I just colored it in with Sharpie, and then on the back side I just colored it in with Sharpie. But then when I took the costume off, everybody's like, "Not cool, dude, not cool, you can't do blackface." So I took a piece of adhesive felt and I put it over the inside of it, thinking, "Oh, that'll cover it up, then it won't have blackface." Horrible idea, because then I end up with all these like black hairs in my mouth. So I was just a spitting pickle for like the first 2 days. Until I just took some Gorilla Tape and went over it. Yeah.
Any other questions?
What are you making of the hand weapons?
Huh?
Yeah, a little
Big
dress.
I still have to make the razor blade gauntlets for it, but I use 2 different kinds of like monster hands. So I had like the rat hands and everything too. So yeah, I just had to tilt pick. One had really long, creepy fingers, and the other one didn't, and had it wrapped around
Do you
it.
know what your next costume is going to be?
Mysterio.
Mysterio. Okay.
I'm going to float around on a cloud of green smoke with the one wheel and tiltings.
Fancy.
That's the plan anyway. We still got to test out the smoke grenades on one wheel.
Any other questions?
Any questions?
Awesome. Thank you, Aaron. All right. Does anybody else have something they want to present? Joe?
We'd like 1 minute to.
Oh, all right. Does anybody else have after Joe? I can only buy time so many
So we
times
can
throughout
ruin
the
my
night here. All right. Sadiq, you want to talk about your bike?
If anyone wants to buy it, yes.
Oh, there you go then. You're gonna go grab it and bring it out. We'll buy Joe some time.
Should be quick. Their website sucks, so we'll see if this works at
Just
all.
click
So.
remember on that, and if you can remember the credit card details, it would be.
Right?
Oh, especially not after you see what's on here. So, okay, cool. So what? I'll actually play this real quick because this will be. Oh God, which? Please don't have done anything stupid.
I think so.
This is dash cam footage I'm about to show you here, so no audio.
Is this when your car slid down the hill?
No. I store my electric car, slid down the driveway so far, it pulled the plug out on itself. Yeah. So their website is notoriously slow. We'll see if this can get going. Thing I want to talk about, so a long time ago, PlayStation 3 was an unhackable thing, and this crazy, weird 15-year-old hacker dude named GeoHot cracked the PlayStation 3 in his bedroom. He defeated Sony's, $1 billion worth of marketing effort. And so about a year later, I see him, there's a video of him sitting in his car with a laptop and a bunch of wires coming out, and he's going, self-driving car. He goes, I can do it 50 lines of Python. These guys, these Tesla, these don't know what they're doing. They're all crazy. I'm like, all right. And so I hear a couple years later, he's got a company started up, and he's basically selling an Android phone you stick to your dash that drives your car. And I know everybody just thought, like, that's the dumbest thing I ever heard. I got 2,300 miles on it. It drove me here. It drove me here. It cost $600 less than a Tesla. So let's start explaining why this gets even weirder. So almost all cars sold after about 2017 or so have what's called adaptive cruise control, which automatically slows you down when you come into traffic. And around 2017 is a thing called lane keeping assist. So my Toyota from the factory, this is, I guess, somewhat useful it has a camera that detects lane lines with hardware. It tells the car, you're going over the right lane, you're going over the left lane. The hardware also detects speed limit signs, which I think is kind of a crazy use of silicone, but the camera in your car can see speed limit signs and tell your car what the speed limit is, which is kind of crazy. So my Toyota from the factory will, 1 second after I depart a line, it would beep. And then the next generation of Toyotas came out in 2017. They had a new feature where it will actually bump the steering wheel a little bit back into the lane. I think the theory being if you fall asleep at the wheel, it'll beep, and if you have a Chevy truck, it'll vibrate the steering wheel when you go out of the lanes. But so I was in there thinking, boy, my car's got a camera that can see lane lines, and it's got a motor on the wheel, but Toyota didn't have the guts to like connect those two things together and make the car keep itself in the lanes. So this guy, it turns out the connector in your car that plugs into that little camera has access to all the CAN buses and all the OBD2 data in your car. So every bit of data to control your entire car can be gotten from the little connector that plugs into the camera on your windshield. So you can drive your car from that little connector on your camera. So this company is 3 pieces. This is called a Giraffe. It plugs into that port and it gives you USB out of that. So it takes both CAN buses and the OBD2 bus and puts it on USB. Because that needs more power than that little connector has, it's got this crappy little patch that steals 12 volts from under your dash and gives it to power this. USB comes out of this and goes into a really weird, it's an Asian cell phone that's super not popular in America. It has way too big of a GPU. It's a gamer's phone. The whole back, 3-pin case, and there's a heat sink that's about half an inch thick that's glued to the whole back of the phone. Because this thing has to do, so this thing is rocking full GPU, it's doing all the AI stuff, and it doesn't know it's a car. It doesn't know what lanes are. It doesn't know how fast I'm going. The only thing it knows is, I watched 10 million miles of people doing this before, and they went about a little to the left of where you are. And then, oh, they're a little to the right of where you are. And I know how ridiculous that sounds. Like, that really shouldn't work, but it does. And it sends, the side effect is it's also the world's coolest dash cam when the website actually works.
So can it continue to learn or
If
not?
you update the model.
So what you do, this company does, this Comma AI company that I bought this from, has a very unique data privacy policy. You don't have one. All of your data will go to us. We're going to sell it. We're going to actually try and bundle it and try and be an insurance company someday, which is their kind of crazy master plan. The guy who started this company, if you haven't gotten the idea, is crazy. His theory is that if you say, I want to build a self-driving car, and I'm going to start out by, I'm going to define the world, okay? The world is a road, and here's a table with all your trees, and here's a table with your cars, here's a table with your road signs. He is a modern day philosopher. He says, if you've defined the world, and then you have sensors feeding into your world, and an algorithm looking at your world, the fact that you've defined a world means you failed at self-driving. talk for hours and hours and gives lectures all over the thing about, you'll never do it. And so you see Waymo's got, there were, what, $50 billion that are trying to do this. They got 100 grand worth of LiDAR and sensors on top of the car, and they can drive on a predefined road in Tucson, Arizona. They did it once without like the first rides I think ever happened this week, so they're doing the exact opposite. They're defining the world as much as possible. All the LiDAR, all the radar, upward, downward looking, photo, rooms full of computer scientists, and this guy is gluing Android phones to your dashboard. And I don't know why the website is so terrible. It always lets me download the video wholesale. So the secondary feature is it's the world's coolest dash cam. It takes video from the car and all of your CAN bus and OBD2 data and bundles it together. So you can actually replay drives and you can replay the CAN bus data. And interestingly, so this company has all the video from all the drives and they knew what my car did. So they can actually change their algorithm and tweak their stuff and run the same drive through and see what the car did again, which makes them unique to anybody else doing self-driving. Tesla's got 10 times them, or 50 times the miles they do, but they don't have any, they can't replay the data back. So he's building this crazy warehouse of data that he's saying, he's like, now I have 10 million miles of training data, and now I'm gonna go crazy on it and just send me another patch in the morning. Also crazy, all open source, top to bottom. The tricky part about that is the result of the training model is a blob, and that's open source. Here's the blob, but it doesn't actually mean anything, so you can't reconstruct the AI part yourself. But every other part of this is Python, including the safety features, which is a little scary. Really quick, I don't know where the timer is actually, but the safety features. This thing uses known hardware. It's like that STM32 that's validated for health and life and limb and stuff. And it has a processor that will not let you send CAN commands that exceed certain torque settings. So this thing has a maximum torque setting, and anytime it tries to command the wheel more than that, it goes, nah, sorry, I can't help you. So it can't take 90-degree turns. It obviously just stays on the highway. It keeps the lanes and stuff. Other than that, everything else is open source. So there's an interesting driver monitoring system that's kind of cool. It uses the front-facing camera, the selfie cam. It has a 3D selfie cam that tries to position which way you're looking. It tries to get your gaze direction. And if you look away for too long, it'll beep and say, hey, grab the wheel or disengage. There's a file that's like number of seconds until alert 10, and you can just change that to 99999 and turn it off with like one line of. So it's only as much as you feel like having. At the top here, I really am bummed the video is not working right now. Well, it doesn't do the overlay when you download it, though. So at the top, blue is manual driving, green is autonomous driving, and then every time there's a disengagement, you can see I touched the steering wheel. It means I got scared. I was a little too close to the car to the right. And it knows when it can sense torque, so it logs an event and goes on here. And I can actually click this and say, like, oh, I disengaged because you're going to run into a traffic cone, and I can send it back to their AI bot that will review all those clips. So George Hotz, the guy who started Comet AI, is, I say modern day philosopher, I'm not kidding. This guy is, he's concerned about his drug use if he wasn't such one of those weird, he's one of those weird, like, super straight edge people who seems like they're on drugs severely all the time. But he's just like, oh, we don't need lane changes. Tesla has lane changes. They're stupid. Lane changes is a waste of time. We ain't going to do lane changes ever. And then 6 months later, he's like, new feature, lane changes. You're going to love it. Like, he claims he's going to start an insurance company, and he's kind of onto something. He knows whether I was looking at my phone when I got into an accident. He knows he's got lots of natural car accidents that happened, not in autonomous mode or not, just he's got lots of live accidents. He knows where you're looking. He knows all of the CAN data for your car. And I don't know any other insurance company that's even trying to steal your like CAN bus data. That's like angle sensors for your steering wheel and how far you had the gas pedal pushed down, like stuff you think you wouldn't want them to know. I've seen the phone where they watch your speed through GPS and stuff. They actually have a box now? Is it doing CAN or GPS? Because I love that.
I think it's doing monitoring, but I don't think it monitors anywhere near the level because you run out of data.
Because I would want the biggest insurance discount.
4 data points a second.
Right, and they don't have 3G or LTE, so.
That's what I was going to say, they're not.
This is like differential high-speed GPS.
If anybody wants to subpoena him for accident data.
There's a lot of privacy concerns with it, right? Like, what if I was driving to one of my mob hits or something, and they could like They know everywhere. I mean, there's
Maybe that's where he's making his money, selling to the courts.
API to it.
So,
Right?
There you go.
He does not have a plan B yet, so they still have money. When they start running out of money, I'm kind of concerned what they're going to do with all my data that I've been like shoveling to them wholesale for 2,000 pounds. Yeah.
So what cars does it work on?
Oh, right. If your car has, you need to have adaptive cruise control, and you need to have LKAS, lane keeping assistance system. It's slightly different acronyms across all car manufacturers, but somebody told me that more cars than that come with the adaptive cruise control now. Lane keeping is still a premium-ish kind of feature. Like my car, it's only on like the high option package, but a lot of like somebody told me that like GM pickup trucks like don't come without it now, like in the 2019 models. So if you need to have the steering torque motor, and you need to have the radar cruise control. This system can take over and read the radar data itself, which is kind of interesting because I could actually, you can write your own maps for like how fast it accelerates from a stop and how far ahead it starts to brake when it sees another car. Like the curves are different for like the Kama system versus the Toyota one. The Toyota one sucks. Like it doesn't go fast enough in traffic, and like this one drives like a person. Like people aren't always like cutting you off.
Are the CAN layouts like really well known for? I know nothing about cars, but yeah. So are the CAN layouts for all these car manufacturers like really well known?
Only because of independent research. This is so that's actually a story I forgot. This company does not sell self-driving kits. They announced they're going to sell self-driving kits. The NTSB said, "You're doing what?" And they said, "I'm sorry, we're selling dash cams." A separate product called OpenPilot happens to work on the dash cam they sell. So officially, this is a CAN bus dev kit. So there's a whole, my car isn't recognized, how do I fingerprint it thing? And they're like, oh, sit in your car, run this app, plug this in, get the logs going, turn the steering wheel, drive 30 miles an hour, send us this packet, and we'll be able to figure it out in like 15 minutes. They can add a new car fingerprint to this. Apparently the radar data is like standardized from Bosch, so like a Toyota and a GM radar is the same data, so they can work with that across manufacturers and stuff.
Yeah, just because I know I worked for Trek, and Bosch is very not happy about people knowing about CAN bus data. They like even at Trek, they don't know all of the CAN bus data.
Oh there's a lot going on. This actually is the tool you'd use to map it out, because you can see all your drives, you can rename things, and it'll keep the name persistent. It's actually like I don't have any other excuse to play with CAN data.
So
When the website's not janky, it actually shows you the lines that it drew on the ground that it's trying to follow, which.
So you could try Chrome. I don't know if it might be a Firefox bug.
So if you go down a road that nobody's ever been with this device, does it like kind of not let you auto drive?
No, this does not know what a road is. Doesn't know where I am. It doesn't know anything. It just does. A million people saw this view before. What did they do? Oh, most of these views have two white things, and in most of those views, I'm real centered between them. But it kind of learned all that behavior. They force. Originally, they were using only lane detection, but they claim to not be anymore. They claim that that's a backup to just total scene detection. So I've seen videos of people driving it on like weird muddy roads. As long as there's like two kind of sort of line thingies, it'll kind of sort of try and keep you in the middle. And it's really the least dramatic thing you ever did. It's not scary to drive. It's like it's like having a trained monkey that knows how to drive sitting on your lap. It's like he can do a lot of the heavy lifting for you, but you got to watch him. You can't you're not sitting and looking at your phone. I can see how it could be tempting to be distracted driving, but in reality, you end up you just use the attention elsewhere. It's really hard to describe. Drive 1,000 miles and get there, and you feel fine. Your brain isn't melted. You don't realize it's happening, but it's just you feel refreshed after driving for a while because your brain is looking at the bigger picture and stuff instead of focusing on keeping follow distance on the highway. Uses a ton of background brain cycles, and I don't know. Maybe if you buy stuff from weird philosophers, it turns you into one or something. I don't know, but it's.
Have you noticed it changing over the amount of time you go the same route?
No, although things change. If the sun is really in your eyes, it might behave a little bit differently than it did when it wasn't. It's still within bounds, but it's real situational like that. I haven't, because it knows where you are in the sense that you can feed the GPS back to the home base to see who had problems in this area, but it's not looking at it live at all. So it has no idea where I am. Like,
It's just off the camera.
and his thing is, do you know that having one eye isn't a disabled driving requirement for the DMV? So depth perception has almost nothing to do with how good you drive. You don't use your depth perception to tell how close things are from you when you're driving. You use all the other visual cues of where things should be and where highway signs should be going. Like, I thought that was kind of interesting. So like, yeah, a one-eyed camera is all you use to drive, and you do fine. So why can't a computer? I guess.
Did you trust it enough during the snow days earlier that we had?
That was tricky. Like, I wouldn't trust it in any type of slippery type of
Yeah.
thing. Like, it's pretty much like, although like any like straight road, like it does east wash, the drunken east wash lanes that curve like this, it does those just fine. And nobody's seen me doing it yet. Nobody's seen me like sitting there with my hands in my lap. I figure somebody's gonna like, this guy do like,
Wrong kind of car to
But-
a cop or something's gonna be like,
But it doesn't make a turn, it's only lane keeping, right?
it'll do curves, but not, it won't do a 90-degree turn.
But you
It'll do a pretty good curve.
can't navigate and,
Those are here to Sun Prairie, like all those turns on East Wash without disengaging.
So mostly highway driving.
And the interstate level turns,
That's
but
what
you
it
can
sounds
fake
like.
those in town, but like, yeah.
So if your car is older than 2017, what do you do?
You can't add it on very easily.
You get a monkey.
The cars on the borderline weren't really doing this right, but it's almost hard to get a car that doesn't have this, so, like nowadays, like,
The
it's an
more
option in almost everything.
Self-driving cars that we have, the more problem we have with the cars that aren't self-driving.
It's
So
complicated.
When are we gonna get like a proper retrofit kit
you know,
for all the cars that
not
can't?
gonna happen.
Never, you'll never get retrofit airbags,
we
same
can
type of
never
thing, it's
switch
too.
over.
No.
The car's where it
So, and if you want to get technical, this is a level 2 driver
Like 20
assist,
years
is what
out
this is
then.
called. This is level 2 self-driving.
Has a 1970s vehicle ever became a 1980s
Last two
vehicle?
questions, Tom, you wanna go?
What's
Jim, no way.
Where is all of this data being stored? You're showing video images and stuff, is it being stored on the device itself, or is it being?
It uploads constantly. It buffers everything and then uploads when it gets on Wi-Fi.
Airplane or your plane?
Wi-Fi right now. It has a data. They actually have a data service thing where it'll upload over the cell phone network, but
So
it's
what
all
does
on
it
them.
cost? What does it cost you?
Car's Wi-Fi?
Nothing. No monthly fee. I don't subscribe to the Wi-Fi. You can get remote SSH and stuff if you sign up for their thing. So yeah, you can SSH in my car while I'm driving and jerk the wheel out of my hands. Like,
If you're not subscribing,
What a world.
how did you get them here?
Oh, all right.
If you
this
were-
is their website.
So, but how did they get there then if you aren't?
Oh, Wi-Fi. Like it's on the
Who's
Wi-Fi at work.
paying
It's
for it though?
right now.
Free.
Well, I paid $600 for a $200 cell phone, so they made some
Okay.
money from me. You know.
Okay. That's a one-time fee for you.
You have to
Yep.
keep in mind the company's benefit long-term is
Yeah.
having the data. They don't
Yeah.
care about the cost to get the data, they don't care about the cost to archive the data or process
Sure.
anything else. Because Joe is giving them tons of free training data that they need to have, that they would otherwise be paying tons of money for. So this
Somebody-
is like, Joe's giving them the benefit that they want and the money that they need.
I can't back this up officially, but I heard a little bird told me that Green Cab just signed their new deal to lease Teslas. They're getting such a crazy deal on that because that company is
Feeding the data.
farming that data off to somebody, and that's a huge part of why that is an economical thing.
They're only using Teslas for the Edgewood area?
I followed one all the way here. Just saying.
There's a Tesla outside.
They still drive like jerks. It didn't help any of that.
It's you? Yes, the purple one. Parked right behind you.
How many subscribers do they have?
Thanks for not hitting.
Over 2,000, 2,500, something like that.
Really?
So daily active, indeed. And they say they have like an 80% engagement rate for people who have these things. I don't even like think of it. It's not a dramatic thing at all. Don't even think about it like at all. Like,
How long has this been going on?
this guy's been doing this. Like I said, it was 4 years ago. He was like a nerd with a bundle of wires sticking out of his Toyota, and some confused guy from CNN being like, "You did what?" And now he's well funded. Server costs are getting expensive, so they added the optional plan to pay for it. But he's saying like that's killing their runway right now. It's like really like this is a lot of data for like even for only 2,000 people. There's a custom video format they made. There's no audio. It's I don't remember exactly what it strips down, but it's a weird video format that VLC couldn't even play. I had to get a plug-in and stuff. But like, so they're trying a bunch of stuff, but
So is there any talk about the car company's response to this? I can't imagine.
I
they
could
would like it. Or
install. I could. I'm gonna rent a car that's compatible with this next time I travel and try and put it on the rental. Like
Was it
it takes
tough, like-
30 seconds to install in a car now.
It's easy for car companies to disable the interface
why can you turn the steering wheel from the port on my camera with no authentication? Like, why can you do that? Like, I don't know if I want to live in a world where it's all encrypted and I have no control over my car,
They're gonna
but
be
shit, that's
shutting it
crazy.
down.
Well, that's what Jeep found out.
Right, yeah, you could, over the cell network, you could start and disable any Jeep sold for a 3-year period or something, like, yeah.
So when we were, so I did automotive stuff at school, and we had to do a lot of this kind of CAN debugging and reverse engineering. And one of the easiest ways to block this from happening is to do a rolling counter between the powertrain systems and the master ECU for the vehicle. And you can, it's basically just encryption. And so you can encrypt all this stuff, but it's really not done. It's just not worth it. There are enough problems getting the car to run and drive, and I can tell you that from manufacturers that I worked with when I was a student, as well as a student perspective. Just doing any of this stuff, you either have to be really into it and know how to do it. We have CAN loggers and debuggers here if you guys want to play with them, but it's really not easy. And I can see totally where the manufacturers could block this, but it's such a disincentive for them from a debug perspective, it's not worth dealing with. Because now every one of their mechanics has to have a customized tool that you think they already have, but they really, really don't. They use all generic off-the-shelf tools that they don't develop. So this would be very hard to prevent from happening, and they don't really care. Because if anybody screws up and gets in an accident, they just point at this tool and go, well, nothing to do with us. Somebody bought a third-party unauthorized tool, and they plugged it into their car, and it's not our problem.
A lot of people's response, is like, oh, well, what insurance company's ever going to do this? Your insurance company doesn't give a shit. They don't care.
Well, I think
You're still driving.
they want it.
You're responsible, whether a monkey's sitting on your lap driving, your kid's sitting on your lap, they don't care. You crash your car, like, they,
But if they
the
see
same
that you're
liability.
looking away often, even if you don't crash, but you
Well, I'm the other way, like,
inattentive, won't they raise
I drive
the
like a
premiums?
grandma. I've
Why
never
would
been
I
pulled
want
over in my whole
this?
life. I'm super proud of it. I would totally give them all my data if they gave me a discount for driving like a grandma. I would
Yeah.
love it. Like, I'd sign away my whole life.
The other issue is liability. Automotive manufacturers are being sued big time for defects, and that's another issue as well, too.
Like the
There's a
legal.
debate in the industry about AI versus engineered. The AI, you can't say it's best engineering practices because the thing learns on its own. Who's teaching it?
And the automotive engineering cycle is so slow. A lot of people, this guy's like, oh, why don't you sell this to the automotive companies? And he's like, there's nobody to talk to. There's no Ford to call. There's 500 disconnected departments that can't communicate right. Coordination takes years. There isn't a Ford to call to ask about their AI because it's just segmented things that are.
All right.
Yep, sorry.
Maybe off the plug, or off the plug. So you want to quickly,
If anybody's got a Toyota and wants this part, I have an extra one. They actually redesigned this that fits all up in the thing, so if anybody has a Toyota and is it really interested, like,
Any Toyota?
2017 and newer with
Steve,
LCD.
quick talk on slides. Does anybody have anything else they wanted to share? All right, sneaks up last. I'm gonna play a video afterwards that'll give people scary ideas.
It's one way, it's one way only.
Hi, I'm Sadiq, and I was working on this bike over the summer, and this for the past few days. And this was a road bike, and I tried to convert it into an electric bike because I was biking to St. Perry back and forth, which is like 20 miles each time I go. So I was like, maybe I should like find a way of simplifying my life. So at first I got a road bike from Chris, and I was like, maybe it will like be a little bit light and fast. But when I tried that, things were a little bit more like, okay, they were good, but not as this. So this, right now the control is dead because I accidentally changed the poles and I burnt the controller, so it doesn't work right now. But if you're willing to buy this thing, I can say, like, if you're really ready to buy it, I can fix it very, very like, fast and give it to you. So the main thing here was that me and Alec, we're trying to design a battery pack for it, and this is the design that we came up with. So here's tape? So no. Actually, so the tape is just holding everything together because so the final product is supposed to be like, we have 4 rods, 4 rods, and then actually not 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rods to hold the batteries together, so you can clamp the batteries all like squash them, like hold them all together. But the problem is that I have to also find a like. So right now I was using nails and like. So I used to actually like come over here every single day to like screw them out, charge the batteries, put them up, screw them up. So it was like a very long process. So I'm trying to simplify this by like trying to design. I was talking to I was talking to Sean on how like to create something a little bit more like precise and easy to like put the battery in and take it out. The concept isn't that hard, but because this is already pre-made, I have to just buy it online and like fix things together. But the hard part was to this wheel. I got a chance to like build it myself, so I had to like to spoke the wheel, which was a little bit. So I had to spoke that wheel, which took me like I don't know a week and like 5 days of like spoking it and respoking it. I had a lot of
realigned after that.
To realign the spokes.
Yeah. So realign the rim to the.
So that took me a while, but actually eventually. So Greg helped me with that, which was perfect because I like a lot, like respoking the wheel and like taking it apart and then like building it, taking it apart. It helped me like do like get this thing. Yeah, I used that. That's yeah, that's the thing that I was really like it was occupying my time a lot of the time. So in here I had to put a switch on the side. So this is not really a perfect design, but if you're willing to buy it, the design can change because we're still like trying to find better ways of like. I'm still trying to like think of better ways of designing the back side. I'm trying to buy a new controller. So the speed, I'm not really sure what the speed is because I haven't tested the speed yet, but I think it's not really like that, it's not like about 15 or something like that. But if you're not interested in high speed, this is a perfect bike for you. And the controller, so I'm planning to buy a new controller first, which I don't know when, but if I get time. So the mistake that I made was this. So, because I usually, whenever I come in, this is like my negative side, and then this is my positive side. But for whatever reason, my brain wasn't thinking right, and like reversed them onto the batteries, and like they blew up. So right now, I was using the LED batteries over there, but for now, I'm planning on using those, which is a design that's still in process. So any questions?
Does your bike have a seat?
Oh yeah, that's how it sits. So yes, it does have a seat. Right now, I took it off because I have to like take it. So this is the long process. So yeah, I have to take off the seat, screw out the legs, and then like all that process is like.
You need a hinge latch, man.
Yeah.
Even a Rubbermaid bin will work.
Yes.
Have you found a new connector that will prevent you from reversing the lead?
I'm still thinking about that. So actually, the design, the final design that I have in my mind is that the final design is supposed to have like a well-designed charging system. So meaning instead of like taking out the batteries every single time, the batteries will be in there, and like planning on like putting a hole somewhere for the like a charging port, so I can like just plug it in, like just like that. For this, I had to do the manual screwing out and in, but for the final design, the things will be a little bit more easy than like this process.
Other questions? Anybody have any other questions? Yep.
How long does that bike last you?
Actually, it's I was surprised that this thing used to like so. I used to bike from home to here and then from home to work and come just back and forth, and it took me like a week with this, which is like I was surprised it was taking me that long. Like, yeah, because I expected it to like work for like 1 day, but it didn't. Like it was a little bit. But it depends on how you maybe, because I think I'm used of biking. Like I can just like keep biking and forget to use the throttle. I'm like, yeah, I'm there. But I think if you like overuse the throttle, like the power, it won't last you that long. I think like 2 days or 1 day, I guess.
Yeah, what kind of batteries are you using now, specifically?
So I was using the lead,
They're 12 volt, 9 amp hour lead acid batteries. It's a string of SLA batteries we had laying around.
this. So I was using this.
Yeah.
But the problem with these, they're very heavy.
Yeah.
Like super heavy. When I'm going uphill, I can feel the bike a little like. I can feel it pulling my bike upwards. But with those, I'm expecting the bike to be a little bit like weightless.
Yeah, what are those?
These are lithium batteries.
Lithium iron phosphate.
Lithium, yeah.
Like 18650?
No, they're prismatic cells. They were given to us by a local company who wanted to dispose of their old batteries cheaply. And they're lithium iron phosphate, so they're a relatively safe chemistry, a lot better than lithium ion or polymer cells or anything like that. But
Those came from our work.
they did. The problem is
Don't know
they
where they came from.
Oh,
they
I didn't know that.
the problem is that they're iron phosphate chemistry, so they're 3.3 volts nominal instead of 3.7. So getting a battery management system is a little bit harder to find, but
Yeah, I was gonna ask
too
that.
bad. But yeah, he's got a BMS for it, so he won't be burning his bike down anytime soon.
Yeah, I'm good. I bought a BMS, so I think my life is going to be a little bit. It's actually, I'll be able to track my charging charge level, so like my voltage, or on my phone. So meaning the BMS has a Bluetooth, so meaning I'll be able to connect with an app to my BMS to check the battery level and all that stuff, which will be a little bit more easy than because I used to do the same thing to check either checking the batteries or charging. I used to still screw the thing off and yeah. Yep, you had him.
So how many lead acid batteries did you use the first time?
So 3.
Just 3?
Yep.
And that lasted you how long?
I mean the accuracy of in my case the accuracy isn't great. Like when I say a week, it's not accurate because I don't really use the bike a lot because I go to school with the bus and come back home and then start dreaming of using this bike because I like the bike because it's fun to just sit and then But the thing is that I'm not sure that it would even last more than 2 days when you're just using it constantly. But if you're using it for if your usage is a little bit so if I bike from home to work and come back and I still have enough energy to come to sector, then it was a little bit I wasn't using a lot of energy. Yes.
How much does it cost to charge it up?
So about that I don't know.
It's about 10 cents.
10 cents. 10 cents.
Very cheap.
More questions?
Any other questions, anybody? All right, thank you, Sadiq. I put Sadiq on the spot. So. Has anybody seen this video already?
What's it selling for?
What's that? Oh, yeah, Sadiq, how much do you want for your bike?
How much?
Yeah.
Enough for everyone?
So right now without the BMS 50, but with if you want it with the BMS 60.
With the controller? Yeah.
I mean with the controller, not the BMS. Sorry.
Includes the battery?
Sure.
Yeah, the batteries.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, the battery. Yeah.
Wow, that's a deal.
Then how are you gonna get to work?
So I'm planning on buying a new system. Yeah.
He's got a mountain bike at home. It's taken up room in the garage.
You're a motivated seller.
All right, so I'm gonna play this. I'm gonna try to make sure the audio works. This is talking about Joe's. Let's see if we can get the audio to right in the right spot. So this is a simulation where they're doing AI, and they are trying to get. This is so stupid. They're trying to be able to train. Let's see. I will narrate for you, or you can hear the thing. So basically, little blue guys are learning how to play hide and seek, and the red guys are the seekers, and the blue guys are the hiders. And this is just a straight OpenAI project where they are trying to train an algorithm to play both sides of the game. And what they found at the beginning is that the thing was just totally random. They would just do random junk. Eventually, the hiders learned that they could move the blocks to hide them into the holes and prevent the seekers from finding them.
So they eventually realized that they could do this, and then they would win the game because there was nothing that the Seekers could do to get to them. So they gave the Seekers a ramp, and it took a long time for the Seekers to realize they could use the ramp to find the hiders.
And to the surprise of no one, for the first few million rounds, you start out with pandemonium. Everyone is running around aimlessly. Without proper strategy and semi-random movements, the seekers are favored and hence
So then eventually, the Seekers have got this wedge that they can move.
about 10 million rounds later,
So 10 million rounds later, they figured out they can use the wedge to get over the wall.
used as a ramp, and ta-da!
So then after more training, because the Seekers are locked at the beginning of the game, the hiders, though, can move around. And so the hiders would end up going out, grabbing the block. And then they would win again. And this is all AI. This is just its own training. I mean, they're giving it, value for any of it.
But they're working cooperatively, though.
They have to by learning. This is not any training. This is all just learned from iterative
So, like,
results.
For the blue team, is it 2 instances of the AI programming?
They're separate. So then they make the game more complicated. So it's the same thing. They can hide.
As opposed to like 1 or 2 pieces,
So he breaks the game. So the Seeker realized they could walk up a wedge that's been locked by the hiders. So the hiders in this version of the game are permitted to lock down objects. So the hiders were locking all the objects to prevent the Seekers from using them. But then the Seeker found a block that wasn't locked down, and is able to skate on top of the block and then skate to the wall to jump over.
How is it skating?
This is all learned behavior from the AI.
But I want to learn how to move a block from on top of it without doing anything.
This is just like playing a video game where the games are learning how to play. So this is millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of rounds. So Joe's talking about millions of rounds or millions of miles of car AI learning. And that's basically what they're doing is they're just taking a video and all they have access to is the video image. And they're processing it and they're giving it enough computational willpower to figure out what to do with the image, with only the image data. So as Joe was talking about, they're not trying to define the world anymore. They're just trying to take what they have and use it. And this is the same way. Each one of these is an algorithm, each learned behavior on the Seekers and the hiders, and they can each do their own things. But obviously they're incentivized through reinforcement to work together and work collaboratively. And so at the end of the day, I've seen a...
Just threw it off the board.
Yeah, so it's another bug. So if they run it into the corner, it gets flung off the board. And so they can get rid of the block.
So is it like they get stuck and then they just try something at random?
It's just completely random behavior and then it's reinforced. So that random behavior resulted in a good outcome, then that behavior is reinforced for the next round. And so then it's continually reinforced. So you get all sorts of bugs. And so here's what you're wondering about, right? Which is these are outcomes. So this is game outcome based on rewarding and based on behavior. So they can take different behavior modes, reward them, and then they'll feed into itself again over and over and over again. You get the same behavior over and over and over again. And then they can iterate on different versions of a map and different play styles. And so through just literal computational willpower of enough cycles, you give these things opportunities to learn and they're able to figure things out. So the creepy part is, it's like, where are we going if this is what the little cute hide and seek game is able to do? What happens when you have a thing that's not playing hide and seek anymore, but playing other more nefarious games?
Well, what you don't realize is the really huge social media companies are doing this every day, but you're the monkeys. Right? Facebook is constantly A/Bing different algorithms to different portions of their audience to, get engagement higher and higher and higher. And you wonder why you spend an hour every night. It's because the platform has been tuned to be addictive for you to use.
Maximize engagement, let's maximize ad revenue, which maximize other things. So with that, I will quit. But anyway, this thing's OpenAI. It's all open source. It's completely insane. And
You
it's
can play probably like 2 hours to play around. It's really cool.
Yeah,
Human players and beating them.
it's beating humans at lots of games.
Yeah, they just started to play StarCraft too.
Yeah, and StarCraft it's killing, which is not a game that should be very easy for an AI to play. Anyway, so with that, we can pop around. You can say who you are, what you're interested in, or why you're here. Otherwise, and then if you want to stick around, you're welcome to. And you can check out what Tom's got or buy Sadiq's bike. You know, all kinds of important things.
Bill Madison?
All right, good. What's it?
What about Bill Madison?
Bill Madison is coming up in the middle of the month, and it's open to anybody. It's a 24-hour hackathon. Thank you, Sean. I changed the timing a little bit. We're going to do, it's going to be 10 to 10 a.m., and we're going to start 10 a.m. presentations on Sunday, if anybody's alive and awake by then. This is basically an excuse to work on a project over the weekend. So there's usually quite a few people who show up, and we have a good time. And beyond that, I have no idea what people come and work on, but it'll be fun and entertaining. So I'll be working on getting a few things in the shop straightened out and working better in terms of tools and equipment-wise up until then. So if anybody's bored, I have a running list of things that I'd like to have up and running by the time we have a lot more people here working. So anyway, go ahead. Who you are, what you're interested in, or why you're here otherwise.
Dave Hannon, I work with Scott, and Scott's talked about these meetings and encouraged me to come, so I thought I'd see what this is all about.
One of us.
I'm Scott, a member here, currently working on an installation blowing machine. I'll be at Build Madison, hopefully, most of the time. I'm looking forward to that.
Davy Post, software engineer.
My name is Brian, a member here. I'm doing AV stuff tonight.
Brian's streaming with new plate mics, so there's microphones here and over there, and we are trying to see if the web streaming works better or not.
I'm member 2.
I'm Joe. I print a lot of 3D printed stuff, and I manufacture subsea motors now. This is why I'm not here that much anymore.
I'm Joe's boss. I'm Sarah. I do all kinds of crafts of various sorts and am kind of a member here. I think I'm best too. I just do stuff, make comments,
Spreadsheets.
rile people up, you know.
I'm Aaron, member here. Do costumes, 3D printing, one-wheeling, falling, peeling. Repeat.
I'm Leon, I'm a member. I guess I mostly do electronic stuff. I'm Dennis. I like messing around with microcontrollers and LEDs and things like that.
I'm Jen. I'm just here for like 21, and I'm trying to build an e-bike, and I like to design stuff.
Jake, I'm new, electrical engineer, just getting check everything out.
I'm involved too with the selection stage museum. I'm building some stuff for Maker's Fair.
I'm next week, Tuesday, I'm having the renewable energy group. I have somebody from Alliant that deals with transmission, and I think he's going to cover solar energy and batteries.
I'm Mark, I'm working at Manson area of fall protection, or not using fall protection, but using fall protection.
Hi, my name is Sadiq. I'm guest at your
I'm Tom. I'm interested in solving the world's energy crisis through leverage.
I'm Vic, I'm a member. I came to my first meeting a year ago today, I think. By day, I work on solar consulting and financing. My side interests are flying, bicycles, we're working basically learning how to do useful things.
Maybe I like to take stuff apart and pour it out in my garage, and sometimes I like to scrap.
Sean, a remodeler, and slowly working on getting some turn back up and turn something in.
Anybody else back there? Did we make it around?
I'm Brian. I watered off the street, watered it off the street. Around because I thought I was better place. I tried to turn the cat.
Good, everybody? Cool. All right, thank you guys for coming.